Welcome to the Wakefield Doctrine, the theory of clocks, Scots, and Rogers. This is take 3. I must be getting out of shape with this here format, but it's number 3. So we will do this for posting on Thursday. It is today right now. It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday the 8th. Wakefield Doctrine, brief introduction. It's a perspective on human behavior. It simply says that we all develop our personalities in the context of a reality, a personal reality, of one of 3 characteristic types. We refer to these personal realities as worldviews, and there are 3 of them, and they have a certain characteristic. One is the characteristic of the individual as the outsider. The second is the characteristics of the person adapting to a world in which they are in the role of predator. And the third one is called the herd member, and that is the one where if you grew up and had to develop the coping skills to deal with that particular worldview context, then you would be characteristically associating with the members of the herd. So we've got those. They correspond, of course, to Clark, Scots, and Rogers. Now, it's 2 important things in what I just went over. Personal reality. When the doctrine says you've got a personal reality, we mean real reality. Not just, hey, man, she likes to put staples in her upper lip and go to a job interview. Great choice there. Or he loves to shout obscenities at birthday parties. Those, in most other systems, are considered the choice of the individual, maybe a bad choice, but still a choice. Here in the doctrine, we're talking about our behavior as being the best possible reaction, response, way to deal with the reality as you find yourself in it. I bet you that got all tangled up. Let's say that again. For the Wakefield Doctrine, what many others call personality traits and behaviors and such, they are simply the best possible coping strategies a individual can develop in the context of the reality that they're developing them in. The other guys talk about the world as if it's one place, and, well, don't you see? They mean this. Why didn't you understand what they said? You know, that kind of reality where there's only one. It's usually the speakers, and they're usually a Roger who's describing it as one. The doctrine takes it a step further and says, look, suppose there were 3 of these things, 3 kinds of worlds, 3 characteristic worlds. What kind of skills would you develop? How would you look? What would you look like if you grew up as a predator would? How would you act if you grew up and you were an outsider? You didn't choose to be. Here's the key point. You didn't choose to be an outsider. You are an outsider. If you're a Clark, you're an outsider. Everything that we look to say, hey, that's Clark-like behavior, that's just the best of the skills that particular individual could develop in the context of being the outsider. They didn't choose. Clarks don't choose to mumble. Clarks don't choose to be creative and wryly funny. Clarks do those things because that's their best response given what we confront, relate to as the world around us. We have this saying, the goal of the Wakefield Doctrine is you learn about these 3 worldviews, the characteristic behaviors, and then you look at a person and you try to infer how that person relates themselves to the world. The key in that phrase, relates themselves to the world, not relates to it. You know, the mainstream will just say, hey, you're relating to the world kind of aggressively, or hey, you're pretty sexy. That's a kind of a funny way to relate to a real estate closing. No, we're adding a gerund. I really hope that's appropriate, but I don't think it is. We're adding a gerund to that. How does a person relate to the world phrase? And the gerund we add is, how does that person relate themselves to the world? And I relate myself to the world around me as would an outsider, any outsider. And a Scot does as a predator and a Roger. You know, I just said any outsider would act like Clark. I bet you the reason we don't have a ton of people yet coming to the Wakefield Doctrine is that it's kind of not tricky, but it's not the easiest thing to get these lines straight, the rationale. The idea of relating yourself to the world simply says that, okay, I am this, an outsider. The world is the world of the outsider. I better learn to cope. I better learn to deal with people. Another example of how it is the best result of a person attempting to deal with the world around them with a Clark is that Clarks know a lot of shit. Clarks don't have, maybe we don't have huge skills, but we know a lot of shit. And we know a lot of shit because when Clarks start out as a very young life form, the way we first come to accept that we are outsiders is that we look around and everybody else appears to us to already know stuff. They know how to relate. They're real people. They're talking. They're relating to each other. They belong. That's the big word for Rogers. They belong. And we as little baby Clarks see this belonging. And now you smarter readers and watchers will just catch us right there in that trap. And it's only the outsider who looks around and says they are this and the world is out there and the world is like this. People who belong don't have to make that division. They don't make that division. Therefore, that's why they're not outsiders. So Clarks look around and we say, oh, damn, we must have been absent that day. The day they taught relating to each other. The day they taught how to be like other people. And so our quest at that point, and it's kind of cool, that's the trap is set and we go running into it. Then I better learn what they know that I don't know. And we're off and running in the sense that we are now determined that we will learn it. So we'll look for everything, we'll be inquisitive, we'll be all of those things. And we've set the trap is like totally closed because there couldn't be anything more useless to the nature of relating to each other as a group, what Rogers do. Nothing more useless than intellectual knowledge, rational knowledge, because it's an emotional thing. So we tripped over something, we ended up on the rational path to understanding how people are together. And we're doomed for the rest of it as Clarks. Never find it. But we'll always keep looking. So that's kind of what we're talking about with the Wakefield Doctrine. So if you're a Clark, if we went and dropped you in the world of a Roger at age 3, you'd be saying, yeah, no, I'm not. Caught you. I'm a Roger. It's a little doctrine joke for new readers. So that was kind of a quick little tour de force. Got to look up that word gerunds. I'll see you later.